Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. We got another edition of Recruiting Intel. Got Coach Dub, got Justin Wells. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And also head to InsideTexas.com. You can get 1 week. So that means a bunch of portal info, bunch of Clemson prep, and maybe even Coach Dub's services at some point but 1 week for $1, head to Inside Texas and get that. Justin, well, I guess it's you and me for a little bit. Let's go over some of the more recent portal news of guys who have come into Texas before we get into guys who either have left or are interested in Texas. Let's knock that out real quick. Pile up some questions. We'll try to get to them as soon as possible. We know there's some news with one of the big targets that Texas had. But let's go ahead and talk about the big three so far that even Steve Sarkisian talked about. Got a punter, and one of the things that Steve Sarkisian mentioned first was not just leg strength, which I think Michael Kearns has been hampered this year because of injury, but the ability to punt left, right, center, short, tall, hang time, line drive, inside the 5, inside the 20, all that stuff, and they get that from Jack Bomeister.
Yeah, that's punter lingo, and all I know is he's a complete punter. He does everything really well. Listen, if you're a 2-time all-conference participant in college football, buddy, you're doing something right. And so when it comes to the punting arts, I usually just rely on your expertise because I see ball, I kick ball, boom. That's all I know when it comes to punting. But there's so much more to it. And Texas has been really good at the punting game for the last 5 to 10 years outside of 2024. And that's what happens when you start a true freshman, Michael Kern, who's also been dinged up as well. Bomeister he's a complete punter. And he's a guy that I guarantee you Jeff Banks stood on the table and reigned supreme because it changes field position. It dictates games. And we've seen it this year. Some bad field positions, the reason they lost to Georgia already. And so this to me is a thumbs up.
Moving along, let's talk about Cole Brevard. Started his career at Penn State. And it's interesting, Penn State went and grabbed the number 1 player out of Indiana in order to get Cole Brevard. Goes there for a couple of years, doesn't play a whole lot, transfers to the home state team. Plays for a defensive head coach, former head coach, and Ryan Walters, and earns honorable mention, all Big Ten honors. Big dude, 6'3", 330. We were able to talk to On3's Purdue site, and they said nothing but great things about him as a person. Star Wars guy, which I know you'll like. Very involved in the community and with charity. Someone who is, just a you don't want to say teddy bear. It seems so cliche, but right. Someone who is very, very well liked and not the guy you want to be the centerpiece, but someone that you don't mind being in your class, especially if you're going to take 3 or 4.
You got it. They've got to have 3 more, and you want big boys with big size with big production, and that's what Brevard's been able to provide so far. Like you said, it's not going to be a 5-star jump in da. This is a guy that builds depth. And if you've seen Sark build this program over the last few years, especially out of the portal, they're into building depth. And I think Brevard's going to come in and add that instantly. Yeah, he might be a giant kid at heart, but man, he plays rough on the field. There is no – he's like Darth Vader on the field. Like there's no relenting. This guy's got a good tape and he's got a good motor. I think he's kind of a sneaky get. I'm actually curious what Coach Williams thinks about him since he's a man of the trenches.
Yeah, look, just watching this film, you look at his Ohio State game, and a few bright spots they had, he was that. Like, he was penetrating the offensive line all day, getting in the backfield, sacking the quarterback, chasing after the football. He was super motivated that game. And so he has that ability to maybe not take over a game, but he can make a lot of splash plays. And if you look at Texas defensive line this year, multiple guys stepped up each and every game. And I think he can come in and provide that as well. He has the talent. I feel like he has the motor to do so. He has the strength and the size. And so he's a complete defensive, interior defensive lineman to me. If he puts it all together, I'm sure with this staff and Coach Kenny Baker getting the most out of him, man, he can do great things here.
Trying to look real quick to see what gap he lined up in because Pro Football Focus does a good job of making sure they have stuff like that. If I can get it just one more second, snaps by position. There we go. Oh no, one more place. He was lined up in the A gap for the most part. 308 snaps in the A gap, 83 snaps in the B gap. So someone that who knows? Maybe Pete Kwiatkowski. We've seen him flip flop responsibilities and put like the big dude, the 330 pounder, maybe a little bit more at 3 technique, and we've seen him put the penetrator at the nose tackle spot. So we'll see, but definitely someone they want in there. And then last, we'll go with Brad Spence, someone who had a really strong year for Arkansas and that Texas recruited. Someone who is a little bit of a tweener, I guess to say. Too short to play edge full time, not much of a refined off ball linebacker. Turned into one over a really quality Arkansas defensive staff. Had a good game against Texas, and now this bolsters the linebacker position. After you could argue that Jelani McDonald kind of got stolen from that position group over the past couple of years. Coach, what does Brad Spence bring to the table for Texas?
Yeah, I like Brad. He's a thumper. He's one of the linebackers that you probably put on special teams. And if we had where you can go blow up the wedge, he'd be that guy. You look at the game versus Texas, he was all over the field. But the first play kind of stood out to me was he ran into Kelvin Banks. And I mean, tried to bulldoze him, but he got off the block and made a sack on Quinn. I was like, okay, I like this kid because he's just aggressive. He gets after it. And so you put him in a room with Coach Nansen, man, who's builds nothing but aggressive, smart linebackers who want to hit everything that moves. He fits in that mold. A former Texas kid who just really gets after the ball. You see him chasing. Didn't see him much in coverage. Not saying that he can't do it, but I saw him blitzing from depth. He does a lot of great things, and he has a motor when rushing the passer too. He might be undersized, but he can get after it.
Texas liked this guy out of high school. I actually, when I went through his account on Twitter, I saw a bunch of old interviews him and I had done. And I'd actually tweeted about this kid maybe as recent as 2 or 3 years ago. But you nailed it, Coach. This guy he's going to come in and take Benda's spot. He'll be a guy that can fill in, be a good, and this guy's bigger. Like, I feel like he's bigger than this size. Like, he is you see him up close like we did in Fayetteville. He's built. And so it's kind of like, hey, go to Arkansas, get some experience, get some production, get some muscles, and then come back to Texas, and we'll top it off. And so of all the guys, he's the one that I actually was familiar with from his recruiting cycle.
Texas has done pretty well to bring some Klein guys I might miss on the first go-round, get them on the second go-round. Matthew Golden, now they've got Brad Spence from Klein Forest, and I'm pretty sure either, Justin, it was pictures you took or Eric Naleen took, that we have just kind of sitting in the On3 admin for stories of him in his Klein Forest letter jacket. So someone we've written about, someone Texas was interested in, but then, for various reasons ends up heading up to Arkansas for a 2-year career. Anything else on these guys, Coach? I know you kind of joined in late. Anything else on Brevard, Spence, the punter? Anything? I got one. What do you make of the whole punting at altitude thing? I know that UNLV had some special teams expertise over there. Vegas isn't that high up. I know it's in the desert, but I know y'all had to play in the Mountain West. What do y'all make of, maybe a punting at altitude?
Look, it's something that they work at and practice at. Like, even in practice, they talk about it because most people come to Vegas who would travel maybe. Like, we got Vanderbilt that came out there, and like we knew they were going to struggle with punting, just kind of dealing with the altitude. It's a bit different. You notice it at first when you first get out there, but you kind of adjust quickly because it's not as bad as going to Denver or anything like that. So, but just traveling different places. I know they went to Boise this year. It's a little bit different. You got a little more air in the ball. You feel like you can punt it. Then you feel like you're playing kickball as a kid again. Like, I'm about to poop this thing out of here. And so you kind of tailor that. As being a punter, take something off the kick here, or if you're trying to angle it, if the wind's blowing a certain way, it's different. The ball may travel a little more. It may have more bounce. So you just got to kind of go through that during pregame and kind of work it out.
We'll go through a few questions. Got this one from Sailor Joe Singleton update. That is the Georgia Tech wide receiver. And Justin, you had some stuff over on Inside Texas about him.
Yeah, he was expected on campus this morning. To my knowledge, he's there. He's making his rounds. Okay, he's already been to Ole Miss. He's already been to Miami. Texas is on the list. Auburn is probably going to get a little say. LSU wants to get him on campus as well. He's the number 1 rated guy in the On3 recruiting portal rankings for a reason. He's a 10-2, 200 kid who was a freshman All-American 2 years ago at Georgia Tech. You know, there's a question about his size. Is he a slot? Can he play outside? He actually did both. He did both at Georgia Tech, and I think he's plenty capable. He is small, but I think that's what Texas has kind of taken in the last few years is those small, speedy guys. But the thing with Singleton is going to be, honestly, let's just be honest. I think it's going to come down to a price tag, to be frank. Like, the kid is very much in demand. His value is as high now as it may ever be, and he knows he needs a big junior year to get into the NFL talk, to get into that NFL draft, to get on that NFL draft board. That's the biggest thing for Singleton right now in his group. And so Texas likes him. As we've mentioned before, they've had their eyes on this kid for a while. And so once he popped up in there, we knew it was a matter of time. Texas is good once he gets him on campus. So they can either shut this thing down in a day and a half, or he's going to make a few more stops before he makes a call. But just trust Sark when it comes to this stuff. Trust Sark, because some guys you may think, well, Texas missed on. Well, you don't want to overpay. And I think that's what we have in the first 2 weeks of portal windows. It's window dressing, man. These kids are getting more than they would have ever gotten in other spots, and that's good for them. They're utilizing their leverage, and you wish them all the best. And so I think Singleton and Texas would be a great match, but Texas isn't going to overpay. Sark is very rigid when it comes to how they dole that out. And so it's going to be interesting to see, you know, when I get to talk to him and a couple of sources after his visit, kind of where they stand.
It seems like there have been some reported price tag from Pete Nakos of On3, and it's quarterback money. And granted, maybe that is just where this sport's going, and that you can demand quarterback money, and it's not just quarterback money anymore. It's more than that. Yeah. But that's definitely a big factor. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor. And, of course, that is Game Time. If you're looking to get into Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium this upcoming Saturday, 3 p.m. to see the Longhorns face the Clemson Tigers, you need tickets. Go to Game Time. You get a view of your seat. You get the all-in price, so you're not surprised by fees at the very end. And it is a very simple and easy process. You can do it all from right here. Go to gametime.co or download the Game Time app. Use the promo code ON3 and get $20 off your first purchase. Seems like I'm curious to see how much orange of the brighter variety is in the stands. But if you want to make sure that there's more burnt than bright, go to Game Time. Use the promo code ON3. Terms apply, but get $20 off your first purchase. And, of course, as always, what time is it, Justin?
It's game time.
We'll go through some more questions. We'll get to some, guys leaving, guys showing up. We had this update that just kind of hit the board right before we took to the live. Lee Hunter from Central Florida started at Auburn, I believe. We thought he'd be making his way to Austin for a visit. Turns out he made a pit stop in Lubbock. And as our guy Paul Wadlington likes to say, any fan base who's extra motivated can get any recruit. And maybe that's the case on this one.
Yeah, so we got that about, 30, 45 minutes ago. And then I posted it 5 or 10 minutes later after that was Pete Nakos, our guy at On3 that's been killing it in portal coverage. He put in a prediction to Texas Tech. And what's funny is in our update, I'd mentioned, look, Tech is throwing around some big bucks. And that's the two guys that throw around the big bucks, the oil and gas brothers.
Campbell and Womble.
That's it. Those are those two. Those guys are involved. Look, hey, I got to tell you, and I think I can't remember if I said this the other day on the air or not. Tech is putting together a pretty solid portal class. Like, some of these guys are really good gets. And I think they're like number 3 in the team rankings when it comes to the portal so far. And so they need a defensive lineman 10 times worse than Texas does. And that's saying something, because Texas needs to add 2 more. But that's kind of the business we're in right now. It's a very fluid thing. Lee Hunter was looking good with Texas a couple of days ago. Now Texas Tech's waving some big green at him. And so this is another example. If you see Texas lose a guy, say to another school, it's not always what you think. Texas may not want to overpay. Right. I'm telling you, Sark has a system, that there is a way, an allotment with how this works. Would he be a good addition? Absolutely. He had a great year last year at Central Florida, and a big boy, similar to Brevard. Like, those are two guys that would look great together side by side. But it's got to be within reasoning. And right now, the price will never be higher. And so Texas still wants to. They're still going to try to get him on campus. It was just a prediction. But, those things kind of usually fall into place. But listen, how many times have we seen the snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap in the last 8 days? Yeah. Like, if anything, portal season makes you a little crazier than usual. But, yeah, Lee Hunter's hanging out in Lubbock today. Texas is going to try to get him on campus on Wednesday. But I don't think Joey McGuire wants him to leave without signing something. And so that's going to be something to monitor. And just got to keep coming to us at InsideTexas.com, because I promise you we'll have some more updates later today.
Singleton and Hunter have been the two big guys. But, at this point, anybody who jumps in at a certain position is going to be interesting. Obviously, Jaheim Otis made his way to Coach Prime. Didn't really – Texas showed a little interest there. Little to none. Does Texas look at Damon Payne from Alabama?
I looked up his stats. Or Damon Payne?
Damon Payne, he just completed his third year at Bama, had 288 snaps, kind of just around 20 a game. Sometimes will play about 30 a game. He was good. I can try to figure out what some numbers are, but he is about the level, it looks like, of the guys who Texas portaled in this past year. You can, if that's what you want, sure. If that's all that's available, sure. You'd like to aim a little bit higher, but maybe they use someone like this to set a floor with the position along with Brevard. Anything else? Do either of y'all know much about Damon Payne?
Why are we just now hearing his name? Like, I felt like if this guy was going to bring some juice, we would have already heard his name. Yeah. And I wonder if he's related, because didn't they have a D lineman named Darren Payne?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe he's the younger brother. I was about to see that was him. His brother was really good.
I was about to say, now listen, if he's related to Homeboy, then yeah, that might be something you want to pursue. And this could be a guy. Look, Tedapara, I don't even know how to say that, so I'm not going to try to. I'm just going to call him TP. TP, this thing is constantly moving. If you see Hunter sign with somebody, let's say in the next 24 hours, there's going to be a new name pop up on the Texas radar. And so it's just kind of the sign of the times. But, hey, if he's got good numbers and the guy does what he can, they didn't like Otis. They did not want to touch Otis, but this could be a guy.
One thing to remember is
Ron. That's good stuff.
One of the things that I think is worth remembering when it comes to the portal is they want impact players. And here's the thing. They don't have guys like Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton there right now. And it's like, hey, you're going to rotate with these guys. Like they may be looking for starters. And another thing to really remember is that the best defensive tackle in the transfer portal last year was entered in the spring window. And that was Simeon Barrow, who was just named a second-team All-American, I think, by most of the places. And Dominic Williams was in the second window, in the spring window as well. So, obviously, they're going to look to be proactive as much as they can now, get the best players they can now. But there is –
and, Joe, don't forget, there's still games being played.
Yes, way different than last year in that front.
Yes, and don't be surprised if there's a few guys that are going to be playing football games over the next few weeks that Texas may have their eye on.
Right.
Exactly. I'd be
shocked. One that was popular last year, one that's probably popular again, is Texas still kicking the tires on Takario Davis. Coach, don't you think are you a little surprised that he didn't just declare, and maybe he's on his way to declaring if things don't go the right? He feels like he's more likely to head to the NFL than he is to another college football program.
And that's what I thought he would do. I don't know if this past season he just didn't have the numbers, or maybe he's not getting a grade that he's wanting, so maybe he wants another year in college. I'm not sure, but I thought he would have been headed to the NFL. I mean, he has all the tools. He has tape. Maybe not this year. I know they had a down year, with new coaching changes and Coach Nansen leaving and all that, but I thought he was bound for the NFL, but maybe he's looking for another college payday, try to increase his grade. Who knows what he wants to do?
He has the size the NFL wants. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he's been one of the better players. He was probably the best defensive back in the Pac-12 last year, one of the top ones in the Big 12 this year. But yeah, I know PFF may have said what it said about him, but I'm surprised he's not just automatically declaring. Maybe he's trying to see if he can get first round money this year and try to get first round money again.
Anybody that lines up across from McMillan in practice every day is going to get better by default. Yeah. That's the best receiver in the draft.
We'll go one off Texas question, and then we'll get back to Texas. Is Mateer going to make OU fans cheer or cry? And this is someone, at least from the latest reports, obviously his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, went from Washington State to Oklahoma, kept all the rest of that offensive staff as well. Jackson Arnold left. Michael Hawkins is still there. I think they had to sign someone not as highly ranked. Like they need a starter, but they also need numbers. This would be a starter. But now just in Miami, because the last Washington State quarterback to go to Miami did pretty damn well, and Cam Ward, Miami's getting involved for Mateer, who is probably I think maybe the best statistical quarterback in the nation this past year.
Yeah, I hope me personally, I hope he makes them cry. It's just fun. It's just more fun that way. I mean, you don't follow your OC, and they definitely need you. I think that'll be something to kind of laugh at. I know Twitter and all the fans will enjoy it, but man, they're in a tough spot up there. Yikes. That's all I can really say about that one.
Like Norman's in no man's land right now.
It's bad.
And trust me, from this seat, we've seen it before, and it is not a fun ride.
Yeah, especially on offense. Defense, I have a lot more faith in what they'll be able to do up there.
And they'll continue to build out the defense. Venables' defense is always going to be salty, and they're always going to have dudes over there. There's no identity on offense whatsoever, and I don't know if there has been since Brent's been there. It was almost like they had a good quarterback, and then they just decided, hey, Oregon, you've never won a national title before, so why don't you get a heads up on this? So just send Dylan Gabriel up there, let him get to the Heisman Trophy ceremony, and let him set the all-time record for touchdowns. I know they were waiting on Jackson Arnold, but man, that's tough to watch when the number one team in the country has the quarterback you just kicked out.
Max Clare update. That's another Purdue prospect. Been told he was probably the best player on Purdue this past year. He is taking a number of visits. He went to Texas, went to Texas A&M. Sounds like he's going to see Oregon, Louisville,
Michigan. This week. He's got Michigan on Monday. He's got Louisville on Tuesday, and he wants to make a decision after that. This guy, if you're a Texas fan, you would be giddy if this guy jumps in.
Yes.
Yeah, he would be a great pair with, not just Jordan Washington, but Amare Niblack as well. Oh, wow. I didn't realize this. Anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, that's another important one. That's one we may not see immediate resolution on. We may have to wait a couple of visits to find out.
Yeah,
where that's
he's in no hurry because he understands his value.
True.
Another one from Sailor Joe. What big key players are we losing, and how do we plan to fill that whole depth recruiter portal? Here's what we already know, and I can pull this up onto the screen in just a second. Hold on. I had it. It was right there. Transfer portal. Got to figure out how to navigate our own website. Transfers. There we go. Let me get this up for you. You can go to transfers out. I'll leave it up to y'all to determine what you think of big key players are. A lot of these guys are obviously a little bit further down on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Jure Bledsoe hadn't seen much action. Jonte Cook, that's a loss. I know people may be annoyed
big this next season.
Yeah, people may be annoyed by him. People may be distraught that he's not in there, but that was someone you would have wanted on your team. Gillette, Akana, Bryant, Cole, Savea, all those guys were down the depth chart. And I thought Cole may have stuck around a little bit more for
Yeah, we talked about that last week, Joe. Well, I thought he would too.
Savea and Finkley will be sticking around through the playoff. That's just rewarding good soldiers. Rubble agrees. And Coach, I'm curious if you remember last year, Casey Kane was someone who entered the portal and then decided to stick with Texas and then play through the playoff before going to UNLV. And I know you may not have been with UNLV up there at that point. I can't remember, but what was that like, at least from the perspective of the program waiting on him?
Honestly, once we found out he was going into the portal, I was probably the first one to reach out to him. And once he went in, officially, I reached out to him to see. And of course, Marion coached him previously at Texas, so we had a relationship there. But hey, let him finish out his game with Texas. It gave the other coaches a chance to maybe see him or get to know who he was, watching his film and stuff up until that point. Because when you're in the portal, you're looking at a ton of guys, right? And then you take the word of some coaches who say, "Hey, this kid can play," but you want to follow up and watch film. And so, kind of bought UNLV some time, but once they found out, okay, he's a guy, he can play, like, let's pounce on, let's get him. And so you're just kind of waiting for the season to end. You wish them well. You want them to win. You don't have any. You don't care either way if they win or lose. But if they win, great. If they lose, we get them in faster. So that's what it was like.
And just to that point, Sailor Joe, anybody who really is going to probably play, they're not making that decision until Texas season's done, unless it's a weird Penn State quarterback situation. We haven't had that yet, and I don't even want to get into quarterbacks because I'm sad that I make that comparison, because there is no comparison between the Drew Aller situation and stuff like that. But none of these guys were starters. You would have liked Dante.
Texas isn't going to lose key players.
Yes, but Texas is also going to gain key players. Trying to look through some of the other comments, stuff that we can.
Our boy here, Brian, Coach Etchison, I got something for him. Malakoff is East Texas. I don't want to hear any more blasphemous from DFW reporters. Well, it's really just one, and he really does mean well, but he's so wrong. I actually texted two Malakoff coaches this week. They both confirmed they are an East Texas school. It's in the corner of Dallas County. Stop, people. It's a silly argument, and you don't know geography of your own flipping state. Malakoff is an East Texas school, and they'll be repping on Wednesday or Thursday.
This is an interesting one. Can Texas get Nick Anderson? Man, that has been a Sooner family.
Yeah.
And that is a Sooner legend for an unfortunate touchdown catch in 2023, to where in the whole situation this year with every single Oklahoma wide receiver just makes me wonder if that's someone you prioritize, not because he's a bad player, but just because, you would like to know the whole story, and maybe you can get the whole story elsewhere for a guy who wasn't wearing crimson and cream last year.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Nick's a great athlete. He's a great receiver, man. Like you said, being an OU family, I don't know if he comes to Texas now. I did put him on the list of kids, top kids in the portal, but I'm not sure if Texas takes a look at him. You never know what the story was, why he set out. Is he injured? I won't say he's damaged goods, but how injured was he? And it's still right. There's a lot of things that you kind of calculate before you bring a guy in, because you come in the spring, you got to be ready to go. We don't want to have to nurse you back to help. Then you're already behind going into the spring. So I'm not sure if Texas, really goes out to him, but he's a great talent.
It's a good 30 minutes on the transfer portal. And of course, news always seems to be breaking, but for all the latest stuff, head to InsideTexas.com. You can get 1 week for $1. That means all the way through the Clemson game and into maybe even some more in-depth portal stuff. You can get access to that for just 4 quarters. So keep heading to Inside Texas. And of course, like this video, subscribe to the channel. And if anything else pops up, we will, of course, be back here to talk about it. So Charlie, thank you so much. Justin, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.